You can catch today's guest racing around the track or Berthold Public School. Joining me now, it's Chris Brown, Lewis and Clark Activities Director, and we have to start right there because it has to have happened at some point. Have you ever had to put up sharing a name with Chris Brown, the singer?
Yeah, I always have made a joke about that when people, whenever I've ordered something and I've had to go in and pick it up and say Chris Brown, and they're kind of, and I always tell people I'm sorry to disappoint.
And the real Mr. Brown really is your pops, and I've seen him at the Moose a couple times, and he told me this story, but I want to hear your perspective about that fateful Friday night football night where you went down with an injury and had to face some adversity.
Yeah, it was the last game of our season, our junior year of football, and it was one of those games that you're just kind of playing for pride because neither team was in the playoff picture, and just I think it was in the second quarter, but I'm not for sure. But I played quarterback that year, and the ball was snapped over my head. We were in shotgun formation and went back to pass, I should have just probably fell on the ball, but I decided to pick it up and try to make something out of nothing, and I picked it up and turned my shoulders to throw, and my leg must have planted in the wrong position, and I had a couple players hit me and just broke both bones straight in half. And to be honest with you, when it happened, I really didn't know what happened. When they say you see a bright light, I saw the bright light and I thought I just rung my bell. So I got up to take a step to walk back to the huddle, and that's when I realized that there was nothing there. It was just kind of wobbling there, and so the players around me, kind of got worried or freaked out, and I laid back down, and the ambulance came and got me, and that was kind of the end of that. And I had 7 surgeries originally in the hospital in 16 days. And then I've had 2 reconstructive surgeries, like skin graft surgeries since. So I've had 9 surgeries on it since it happened in 2003.
Jeez, and what was you said the teams were out, but what was the matchup going in and for that game?
Yeah, I think we both had the same matchup. We were playing Mulholland for Sherwood at the time, and I think we both. So it was a very competitive game. I think it was back and forth, fun game to be a part of. But like I said, both teams were out of the playoff picture, and it was just one of those things that just a freak deal.
And a ton of surgeries over the course of 16 days. The actual hospital stay was that long. And did you kind of ever have a moment where you had to hit a mental wall when it came to rolling through the steps to get better?
Yeah, I think the worst, I don't even remember what day of the week it was. I think it was 3 days after I broke it. My mom had been with me, and we've had a couple surgeries already. Well, she had left. It was in the morning. She left to go take a shower at someone's house, or just kind of refresh or whatever. And the doctor came in and checked out my leg, and as a 17-year-old laying there, he comes in and says, "Hey, if we don't go into emergency surgery right now, we might have to amputate your leg," because I had got what they call compartment syndrome, and that's where your leg swells up. And so my foot was literally the size of my head, and muscle tissue starts dying off then. So obviously laying there by myself, so when my mom got back to the hospital, I wasn't even in the room. I was in the surgery, and luckily Trinity took care of me, and the surgery worked, and I have my leg, but it was devastating for a while. But it was one of those things where, whatever knocks you down can only make you stronger. And so I had to, some tough days ahead of rehab and things like that. And I worked out at Ask Kinetics at the time. Jason Blackburn was a great trainer for me myself. He was just him and I, and we kind of worked through some things. So I wasn't able to play basketball my junior year, and then I didn't play football my senior year because I wasn't able to. And then my senior year of basketball, I was fortunate enough to play, but I just wasn't quite there yet. I was pretty slow and hobbled around a little bit here and there, but it probably wasn't until freshman year of college that I had regained full usage of my leg.
So it's kind of a scary thing. I mean, like it has to be like maybe a different ball game between you and what happened with Alex Smith, right? Because I think he had like a fear of infection that would really like mess up the recovery process. But what happened to you with the threat of amputation was different than that.
Yeah, it wasn't an infection. It's what they call compartment syndrome. So that's like they say it happens like when something breaks at a high rate, and it happens so fast that the swelling. And so, like I said, it was like 3 days later after I had been in the hospital that the swelling had occurred, and then they had to go into these emergency surgeries.
So you're coaching boys basketball nowadays. When you have this kind of experience in your life, do you use any of that to kind of teach the kids about, just getting through something, whether it's with sports or in school or in life, if they share anything with you?
Yeah, I guess I'll to be honest with you, I don't know if I've shared my leg story with them directly, but I have used that experience to build my beliefs in hard work, fighting adversity, things like that through my coaching philosophies. So, yeah, we definitely, my players know what I expect and that we can lean on each other when times are tough, and we're going to get through it together.
So you're overseeing a lot of activities with Lewis and Clark. You're based in the Berthold Public School. Tell me a little bit about what makes this Class B community special to you and why this is the place for you as you continue your career.
Yeah, so I'm a born and raised Bomber. I have bled purple my whole life. I now, being the activities director for both schools, Plaza and Berthold, I've really enjoyed the challenge. I've enjoyed meeting new athletes down in Plaza to share my story with as well. So I have enjoyed that. But definitely, with my roots being in Berthold, my mom actually, before she passed away of cancer back in 2011, she was the first grade teacher here for 28 years in Berthold. So it just kind of brought me back to share my passion, and the community's always has been there through the good times and the bad, and it's one of those places where my wife and I thought that we'd like to raise our kids.
Awesome. So let's think about the best. You're the coach now, and you're a player back then, so you can even include your glory days in this. Tell me a little bit about the best Bomber players and teams that you've been around in any capacity throughout your life.
I guess looking back to I guess what I remember, I played in 2002 all the way through. Those are probably the years that I really remember most. And for the little community of Berthold, they have pumped out some very, very good basketball teams and basketball players. It goes back to when I was a freshman, we took second in state. We lost to Mayport CG by 2 points in the state championship game down in Bismarck. And Adam Grant, he was an amazing basketball player, all-state caliber. He went on to play basketball at Northern State for 4 years under Don Meyer. So he would be one, that is kind of a household name in Berthold. And then, later on, during my brother's senior year, they took second in state and lost to Carrington. That would have been Matt Yell's senior year. My brother was classmates or was fortunate enough to play in that state tournament. So the Yale boys obviously come to mind. And then turning into a coach, I've had the opportunity to when I stepped in as a coach. There's a lot of players and a lot of talent, and there still is, and the tradition of Bomber basketball is still pretty prideful in this town, and the players the younger players that I've coached now have had the opportunity to watch those players. So when I first got here, Austin Lee was another one. I've never coached a player that can shoot the basketball from as far as he can. He was in range when he stepped across half court, so that was kind of exciting. And he had great teammates around him that they just worked really well together. And then you go into a couple years later, I had kind of all the younger brothers of that team, and that was fun. And then we rolled into the Tommy Burke in that era, and he brought something different than those other players didn't. He kind of was the player that didn't lose the mid-range. You don't find the mid-range basketball game anymore. It's three players and layups. And he had developed this jump shot that was just he could get it any time he wanted, and more or less it was going in. And and now we've developed where Tommy's not around, but we've had players step up. And the last year we made the region tournament and returning all but one player. So yeah, it's been fun, and it's been a blessing to have such great kids around and buying into your system. And yeah, so it's definitely been a blessing.
I've been here since 2015, and when I think about like the big guys on campus since I've arrived in North Dakota, it's been Tommy Burke basketball, maybe Alex Nelson, I believe, football, basketball. Marco Guerrero, baseball, football, that kind of thing. From your coaching standpoint, when you're looking at a guy like Tommy, how much does your job change when you have that clear-cut number one scorer that can do it all basically on offense compared to when you have to go by the committee route?
I think there's some plus and minuses to that. A plus is every where who's going to take the majority of the shots for you. That they've have put the time in to kind of earn that role. But then the minus is also that everyone in the gym knows who's going to take the shot, right? Myself, the other team, the fans. So that is also there too, where you have to do that. And then the committee or the more balanced aspect, you don't know who's going to take that shot, and the defense can't necessarily rely on that. But there's always, throughout the years, I have dug deep in the playbook for certain things and been able to always adjust to my personnel. And, I have when you do have a one player that you're running a lot of stuff to, I have some plays to get just them, the basketball and the court. And then, when you have the committee, you're running just kind of a continuity offense where everyone's touching the ball in certain spots where they have that chance to score. So we definitely have tried it all.
How did the Bombers' run to the region tournament last season validate what you're doing as a coach after Tommy's graduation? But more importantly, how does that help the confidence of the kids that had that experience and now they're going to come back to Berthold, play again, knowing that they are capable of doing something like that?
Yeah, that last year's run to the region tournament was a blast, and I think you're 100% correct. I think we lost that heartbreaker to Minor Ryan right away in the district opener, and then we kind of backs totally against the wall against Surrey. And when we hit that three-pointer by Walker Wold to take us into overtime, that right there in that huddle when I knew we were going into overtime, right there, just the look on those kids' face, I knew we had it. I knew that game, and then they believed in themselves from that moment on, and I knew we were going to get to where we wanted to. And it took, coaching those kids. They've been great all the way through, but to that moment in time, it was like, okay, we can win basketball games, and we're going to win, and we don't expect anything but that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can bring this year to the court. But you know what? Everyone else returns a lot of players too. So, and we had such a goofy off season with COVID. So it's going to be a different time to see, okay, who actually put in some time this off season by yourself, because you really weren't allowed to go in the gym, so, or your school gyms. So did you find a way to get some workout in, because everyone is returning players. So it should be another fun District 12.
Do you guys ever miss playing in the old gym for regular season games? That looks like you're all packed in tight. It could be a tough place to play.
Oh man, the hangar, that it's known as the hangar, and yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, we are blessed to have a great new gym. It's awesome having, as an activities director, it's awesome to have 2 gyms to, for practices and just for scheduling. But I tell you what, there's nothing better than on a Friday night or a Tuesday night in District 12 when that thing was packed. I mean, you had fans. You had fans there. School let out at 3:25. Fans were there at 3:30 to get a spot in that gym for the night because they knew that how packed it would be. And it was kind of funny because we'd always tease, or I'd always tease Coach Teets. He went to Minor Ryan, and I took his position on Berthold. And so those first few years when we would play Minor Ryan and they would be coming out to Berthold after we got that new gym, I'd text him or we'd tease back and forth and said, "Hey, we're playing in the hangar tonight." And he's like, "Oh Lordy, you got to spot me an extra 10 points then, because that's the home court." So we'd always tease about that because obviously he'd coached in the hangar, and kind of gets that hometown, definitely that hometown basketball feel.
Awesome. So tell me, this is something that any athlete can control no matter how good they are. What mentality does a Class B athlete need to have to be successful at this level?
I guess my belief always is hard work. We preach that no matter what, no matter how tall, how fast, how slow, whatever you are, our goal is to line up and we're going to outwork you. And the saying that we always go by in our locker room, I have it on a board as we walk out of our locker room. It says, "Don't come back till you've improved." And that's our motto, so whether we go into a game and as long as we improve during that game or you improve as yourself, we're going to get better. And then I always tell the players, don't come, the only player you got to be better than is the one you were yesterday. I feel like sometimes in sports in general, we're always comparing, it's great to have role models and look up to people, but we're always comparing, I'm not as fast as Johnny, or I can't jump as high as Tommy, or whoever we're talking about. But at the end of the day, if you're getting better than yourself, then we're going to get better as a team as long as we're bettering ourselves. So, kind of a runabout answer there for you, but that's kind of my motto as far as these kids in Class B sports.
What do you think makes the journey to the State B unique and special compared to other North Dakota high school sports championships?
I feel like one thing, it all starts with, and I guess this kind of goes for North Dakota in general, but just even visiting with my wife tonight, we were talking about how cold it gets, or my kids were so excited for snow, and North Dakota winters are long. So what's one thing that they can do? It's going to a gym to eat some popcorn and watch some basketball in January. And so I feel like everyone's invested emotionally first, like the communities are, right? And they're tied to it because there's nothing else for these communities to do, or nothing that they want to do. And then you got to start off either in a district or a super region. And you've been fortunate, or that District 12, you're going to see some very good basketball, and it's a very competitive district. So now you gotta string 2 out of 3 games. You got to string together just to get out of there. And now you get out of there, and now you have a seat, right? Now everyone has a seat at the region tournament. No idea what's going to happen, but now you got to string 3 perfect games together, and there's no going back. So you have to, logistically, you have to win 5 of your 6 games just to make it to the Class B tournament. And your competition level, it's high, and everything. And the fan base and the atmosphere, it's a blast.
This is literally a left turn here, okay? Hard transition. How on earth do you get started in go-kart racing?
Literally left turn. I like that. Good question, actually. So, growing up, my family, it took us a few years, but we got a cabin at Medigoshi. But before that, we always took a trip in the summer, and my dad and then my brother and I. My mom not so much, but us three, we were really adventurous. Loved amusement parks, loved go-karts, loved all of that stuff. So that's kind of what got my interest as far as my love for like amusement was always summertime equal to trip going somewhere, and our trip would be Chicago, Tennessee, places wherever there was an amusement park. That's where we were headed. And so my brother and my family's always worked out at the fairgrounds, North Dakota State Fair. I think this year would have been number 23 or 24 for me. I think 23 would have been year 23 for me out there working and cleaning and whatever. Well, the opportunity came up 2 years ago, so this would have been our second year. This is our second year running our company, but 2 years ago, we knew that the go-kart companies that have been running out at the fairgrounds were no longer, and so my brother and I, Josh Brown, we decided, to form this go-kart company. So both him and his wife and me and my wife, we formed B&B Racers, and we're a go-kart company, and it's fun to run it as a family. And my kids are, today when we were setting up, they're into it as well, and it's something I think we're hopefully going to spend lots of time together in the future, doing.
Now, for you to be at the North Dakota State Fair, you're in a great spot. You're right next to one of the entrances. And obviously at every different community building, it's filled with vendors that are there for a reason to expand their business. How has being there helped you guys get this company going? And talk a little bit about where you've taken your track setup to different events and places.
Right. So, the North Dakota State Fair, you're right. First of all, it's a great place to get your business because no matter what, there's people coming, right? Like, and there's people coming, maybe not even to ride go-karts, but they're there and they see your go-karts and okay, let's ride. So to be out there last year for our first year and just to get the word out there and get the excitement and things like that's a great opportunity because there's thousands of people that go through. So we have that permanent track, or we can run our karts on the fairgrounds permanent track. But then we also have a portable track, and we'll rent out and set up for different events. This year we had it on the main street in Berthold for the 4th of July. That was our first main street event in any town. So, and the thing about this track is you just make it to whatever you have, like, so as long as there's pavement or concrete somewhere, you just get creative and start putting pieces together, kind of like a giant puzzle, and see where you're at. So we've been there. We were at the Fair Food Festival this summer downtown Minot at the spot, and we did Taco Fest there as well. Just stayed set up. We did Over the Edge last year with our portable track, and then we've done Rib Fest and last June over Father's Day. So those are the portable tracks so far, and hopefully expand our business to take to company picnics or county fairs or things like that. So it's been an interesting ride.
I'm hoping that you can put this conspiracy to bed here. Do all the cars perform equally?
That is really funny because you'll see, and we try our best to get them to run equally, but the couple things is the governors on them or the throttles, as they vibrate or things like that throughout the day, they'll loosen up and a cart might get slower like throughout the day. And then my brother, he's kind of the man with the wrench. He's more mechanical than I am. So if you sweet talk my brother, if you ever want a fast cart, if you sweet talk Josh, he might be able to take the wrench to your cart before you start and give you a little extra speed.
Fantastic. And one of the events I was going to ask about was that Over the Edge day. That day was a little dreary. It was spitting some raindrops. How well can you run the track in the rain, and how soon do you really have to call it?
Another good question. I guess a couple things. We do have to always look out for the safety of our riders. But we have never really ran into too wet as far as, the pavement. Some kids love it, let's create a slick track or, kind of get the sprint car feel where your back tires are always spinning. But one of the biggest things is the cart sits so low that if there is a lot of water, you're going to get really muddy. it's going to spray up. So trying to tell our customer, you're going to get some water, you're going to get some rain. But and then also it's downpouring. Last year, I think it was a Sunday at the fair, it just started downpouring. We had carts out on the track, and I don't know if you've been to the fairground track, but you have that bridge where you go underneath the bridge. So a dad and a daughter stopped underneath the bridge so they didn't get rained on. Well, it was raining so hard that the underneath of the bridge started filling up with water. So then their cart started sitting in water. So then they had to get out. But so there's definitely a time and a place. But definitely the dry pavement's the best. But a little rain doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, watching out for the flood, that's a realistic, real car problem.
Exactly, right?
So you're going, how unique is the layout from event to event? Do you get it booked over, like, we need, like, this plot of land to set up the track? For whoever books you, do they give you input about how they want the track to look like? And maybe could you ever emulate, like, a NASCAR track and scale it down a little bit?
Another good question. So, we try to. The biggest thing is we want pavement or cement. We've never ran them on grass or gravel yet. I don't know if we ever will, just because we just like that better. So we do ask for a certain size, and never. When we've gone to set up, we've always just adapted our track to the size that's given, so we really can do that. But no one's ever requested anything. I suppose if we wanted to go NASCAR, we'd probably have to get a little more like an incline, right? Like, so the track kind of sat a little more sideways to get those speed turns in or whatever. But we've done some hot ovals and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about just like the shape too. I didn't even think about the banking. That's a good point. So how do you end up kind of getting these events booked for you guys? Where do people go?
Where do people go? Good question. So we do have a Facebook page with our email, and we have when we do set up like at the fair and stuff, we have a poster stating that we do book parties. It's kind of been word of mouth. A lot of the fairground stuff. We've just been out there for years, so we kind of know when events are happening out there. But yeah, definitely. Like us on Facebook and shoot us a message, and we'd be happy to. And we would do any event basically. I mean, anything that we want to get a group of people together and do. We just quite aren't to the point of like opening up all day every day because we both have cabins at the lake, and that's kind of our one. Our families, my wife and his wife and him, my brother, we're all educators. So those 9 months are really busy during the school year, and so we do like some time, or that's one time we do cherish with our families is the summer. So not necessarily want to work every day all day in the summer, but we do enjoy our time together on the track.
That's awesome, man. So talking about the different hats that you have on right now when it comes to sports, would you say you're a better basketball coach, you were a better player back in the glory days, or you are a better go-kart driver overall?
I think that depends on who you ask. No, just kidding.
I'm asking you, yeah.
Are you asking me? Okay. I don't know. I've enjoyed them all. I enjoyed my time with sports back in the day. I finally gave up my rec league basketball glory days. Finally gave up on those just because of being too busy. I'm really passionate about coaching, and I guess one thing that being so involved in so much, I guess one thing I can say is no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to be competitive, and I'm going to compete, and it ticks me off. One thing, my brother's a heck of a lot lighter than I am, so he beats me in go-karts, so we're head to head because our carts are the same, right? And so the bigger guy like myself is a little slower. But I will
track.
What'd you say?
You just need a downhill track.
Exactly. Downhill, then I'll get him, right? Then I'll get him. So, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to give it my best, and I'm going to compete, and I'd like to think I'm one of the most competitive people. And my brother and I have always competed. Board games, even to this day, it's going to end in blood, or someone's going to get ticked off at someone because we're going to compete. And same with coaching. every time we line up, we're going to give it our best. And if I'm going to do my studying, I'll put my time in, and that's kind of it. So I don't know. I mean, I like to think that I can ride a mean go-kart and coach to the best of my ability as well.
So it's still heated. I love it.
It is. It is still heated, and the good thing about it is we both married wives that are not really competitive at all. So they kind of let us win and feel good about ourselves, I guess. And so as long as we compete versus them, we win. But then there's always a loser though if we have to compete versus each other. And we'll always put money down, not much, but just something to tie it. Whether it's a $5 bill or a Subway sandwich or something, we're gonna bet just so that loser has to do something.
That's awesome. And then the wives can just hang out with their derby hats and just watch you guys go at it, being way too.
Yeah, and I have 2 boys, and so each boy, they'll pick their driver of the day. Like if we're gonna ride our double karts, and so Bradley or Bristol will be like, "Hey, I'm riding with Uncle Josh." Well, they know Uncle Josh is the fast one because, like I said, last to wait. So, but Josh at least lets us hang for the most part.
That's awesome, man. It's a great life story. We touched on a lot of things about just your glory days, where you're up to now, and just looking forward to maybe racing sometime, Chris. I think that'd be a lot of fun, dude.
Absolutely, and we enjoy that and enjoy people that have never raced before to come on out and just enjoy it. Whether you're last year I got to take my kindergarten teacher out on a go-kart ride, and so that was a blast. And I wasn't allowed to go real fast, but and you always listen to your teachers no matter how old they are, how old you are. So we did that, and it was so we enjoy that, and would love to have you out anytime.
All right, that's Chris Brown out of Lewis and Clark Berthold. Appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben.